all right. So, Mr. Harner, Christian does an interview. I see it's called Michael Massey Did Nothing Wrong. So that already has me like, well, no shit, you would say that. What he did wrong benefited you, so of course you wouldn't feel it. Of course you wouldn't say it's wrong. I think that Christian obviously knows bullshit happened. But of course, if you make out with the goods underneath some bullshit circumstances, you're not going to put that out there in the air and give people further ammunition to validate everything that has been seen and being said that you definitely didn't deserve what you got. So let's see what he has to say in this interview.
Joining us in the studio now is the Red Bull team principal, Christian Horner. A very warm welcome to you, Christian. How are you?
Morning, Christian.
Very good morning.
Thanks so much for joining us. I suppose listening to it all again feels like it was just yesterday. You're not about to go straight into the new one. Have you managed to sit back and enjoy the win yet?
Well, listening to that, it brings it all back, but it doesn't seem that long ago. And of course, as soon as Abu Dhabi was over, there was a bit of controversy to deal with at the end of it, but...
There was a bit of controversy to deal with at the end. Yeah, there was a scandal in that race. And obviously, you dealt with a bunch of flack and bullshit. You definitely didn't celebrate like most teams did. Or so, of course, yeah.
Right. Then it was Christmas and then straight into the new year, and we're gearing up very, very busily for a new season ahead.
Yeah, I suppose really the controversy is the elephant in the room, and we want to talk to you about a lot of different things that are going on in F1 at the moment.
I want to see how they're going to approach
it feels like a natural place to start.
Is it going to be with kick gloves
How
or
did your
just...
team and the support system around everybody, including Max, handle that?
Well, it was an intense period. I mean, and you've got to look at the season over the 22 races that it was, and we had a lot of decisions go against us earlier in the year and penalties that...
Okay. So she asked him how they handled the situation. Christian just feels compelled to go back and say, like many people, oh, well, there were decisions that didn't go our way. People, I mind you, if you go back and look at some of the penalties that were issued to Max, they were issued, but they did not really affect them. Like the one race, Max received a 5-second penalty, right? The race is over. So FIA and the stewards go back and realize, like, yo, that was pretty egregious. He's going to get an additional 5 seconds. But the race is over, so it should have carried over to the next race. But what they did was put it on the race that had already closed out, which doesn't affect Max at all. So they found a way to implement these penalties to a point where it didn't affect the team or Max. So did it really matter? If they found a way to assess penalties in a way that did not affect your outcome? No, I don't think so. Cut the bullshit.
That weren't awarded and so on. And, you know, we got a little bit lucky at the end, and then sometimes that happens in sport. It's not over until...
Lucky? There's no luck about it. Somebody that you know manipulated the rules to benefit you, and you won the race.
Till the whistle goes or the flag falls, and tactically, you know, we were sharp on that day, and when the crash came 5 laps from the end with Nicholas Latifi,
of course,
we reacted immediately, and we got Max in, we pitted in for a new set of tyres. Mercedes left Lewis out on what would become 44-lap-old tyres at the end of their life. And then, you know, obviously Max had to make that pass on the last lap, which he did, and
Max had to make that pass on the last lap. Well, of course he did. He's going to be competitive, right? But let's look at this. What were you and Max doing when Hamilton was on these 45-lap old tires, also held up by Perez and still gapping Max? What were you doing then? Were you tactically sharp then? Or only were you tactically sharp when you knew what Massey was about to deliver because you and Jonathan Wheatley, so you pull Max and them in for the tires because you know there's about to be some bullshit, so he's going to be able to come right up on Lewis's ass, and then you know that from there on, he should be able to have the edge in a manipulated situation. Like, Christian's already with the bullshit. I just want to know how much more bullshit he's about to give us.
And I think there's been a bit of hiding around some of the controversy, because the bottom line was tactically we got it right. Max delivered the move and became the world champions. So it was a phenomenal result.
I think the rivalries was superb, though. I think that was great for Formula One. You saw it every week; it was changing, and I think that going forward, it's got to be one of the best rivalries, isn't it, in Formula One?
I think it was the best season in probably the last 40 years in Formula.
Yo, this could have been one of the best rivalries. Now, it would have been one of the best rivalries regardless of who won under regular race circumstances. That is how I feel. If Max won, the shit still would have been like epic. Lewis won, it would have been epic, of course, because of the 8th world title championship, but also the whole season that went on between flip-flopping back and forth. It was very tight. It got diluted. It got fucked up. It got molested. It got just dirtied up because of the scandal. Like, it killed it. It really could have been one of the most historic rivalries of Formula One history, but now it will be one of the seasons that goes down as one of the most fucked up asterisk seasons. That's how it's going to go down. It's not going down any other way when people look back at this. It's not.
Formula One
definitely.
and the intensity of the rivalry between two titans. I mean, Lewis, the most successful driver of all time. Max, the up-and-coming.
Oh, shit. I'd give Christian props for that. He was very honest about that, because that is a fact.
Yeah.
Driver that he is, and just.
And Max
both
is a
of
good
them,
driver,
Heavyweight boxing does
Like,
every
no
race. It
confusion
was just
there.
all about the two of them.
What sort of person is Max? Because you see him probably on a regular basis. He looks like he's got the raw hunger to be the best. And he's got a lot of catching up to do with Lewis Hamilton, but he's certainly got the potential, hasn't he?
Well, yeah, he's got that inner burning desire, and he's a real
I won't deny
fighter.
that.
When you put him in the car, he's going to give you 110%. And outside of the car, he's just a normal lad. He's just a nice guy that likes his sport. He's big into football. He loves his
Yes, I
gaming.
know.
He's
We're talking
always
about soccer.
doing. I think he was doing a
American football.
12-hour
I got you.
race last weekend online. But he's just a nice guy.
Damn, 12-hour race. That's
Doesn't
like
lead a
some Gran
high-profile
Turismo
life,
shit.
and just loves what he does.
Has it changed him at all?
No, not at all. To be honest with you, obviously he's matured since he came to us as a 17-year-old, but he's still very much the same guy with the same values, and he's great to work with.
You mentioned the rivalries, and in any great sport, you have these rivalries and you need these rivalries as well. And F1's been built on some incredible ones over the years. How important do you think it is that these rivalries continue?
I think in any sport, rivalry is a good thing. Whether it's football, whether it's cricket, whether it's motor racing, and I think that Formula One's in great shape at the moment. It's never been as popular as it is, and we're just fortunate that we've got the talent.
Now, I do agree with Christian right there. Like it's very building up to 2020 and 2021. I think like things were really growing for Formula One. As it sits right now, I have had so many of you saying that you are not watching Formula One. Formula One has become the new WWE. It's become a fake, a scam. And I can't blame you all for that, because what they did was a scam. Like that, I get tired of people getting in these comments saying that, oh, Max just won. Yo, you cannot tell me that the rules were enforced as they lay out by doing unlapped cars. They weren't. None of that. It was botched up, and they manipulated it. So I think that there's a possibility that Formula One could have a spike in viewership, right? Because maybe people say they don't want to watch it, and then in the end they're like, yo, I just want to see if Hamilton is going to come back. I am one that wants to see if Max is actually going to repeat. Like, if Max doesn't repeat, the asterisk on the 2021 championship, it gets enormous. It gets enormous if he doesn't repeat. Like, and even for himself, you can tell this championship really was not a full-hearted championship with him. You can tell in his body language, the way he talks, and the way he responds when people ask him about it.
Like with Lewis, the most successful guy of all time,
Facts.
With these great youngsters coming through, with Max, and then obviously Lando Norris, George Russell, Charles Leclerc, Carlos Sainz. It's a great, some great young talent out there.
And you just launched a new car, testing at Silverstone. How did that go?
Windy.
Well, you picked the wrong weekend.
But no, it was good. It's always exciting to see a new car. It's like a birth of a new child. It's seeing it run for the first time. It's all packed up and now on the way down to Barcelona, and then we'll be running there for 3 days just with one car. So both drivers have to share that. They get 3 days in Barcelona, 3 days in Bahrain, and then straight into the first race.
Ooh.
Tell us about the new regulations. So for the listeners at home that are not F1 experts, what can they expect and what's changed?
Well, the cars are going to look very different. So what they've done with the rigs is to try and get the cars to be able to follow each other more closely, to be less interrupted by the aerodynamics. So the cars are quite a bit different in shape and design, and the whole purpose is to let the drivers race each other harder. So it's going to be fascinating to see if those rules work and whether the racing actually gets even better than what we saw last year.
It's an awkward question really, but it's, again, another elephant in the room that I wanted to ask you. And in the name of transparency as well, we wanted you to be able to have your say as well. Michael Massey's been removed as the race director.
Here we go.
So a lot of people will be asking the question about how Lewis Hamilton might be feeling about that, how you guys are feeling about that. What do you think of that decision for a start?
Oh, let's see what he says.
I think that, look, it's a difficult one. It's the FIA's business. I think it's harsh. I think that he was in a very difficult position last year. We felt a lot of decisions went against us.
He was in a difficult position. Did you want to fail to mention that you were the one on the phone, like in his ear, you and Jonathan Wheatley, about like pressing this shit? Like, you weren't part of the solution if that was the only case. Like, you were not part of making any of that better, but okay.
Last year. And I think that, when you look at what he has at his disposal in terms of resource compared to what the teams have, it's such a massive, massive difference. And I think it's good to hear they're bringing in things like the VAR equivalent, and they're bringing back one of the most experienced guys, Herbie Blash. I just think there was so much pressure put on the removal of Michael that that's not right. That's that was my personal feeling.
Should the FIA look back at and review the race? They admit they got it wrong or not? Or you think it's gone now?
It's done. It's done. And I think that.
Did you hear what he said? It's done. That's not what he asked you. Like, no, it's done. No, he asked you, do you think they should go back and look? And by the way, Christian's body language changes. And the way he answers that, hell no, he doesn't want them to go back and look at that because he knows it was some bullshit. He got to know it was some bullshit. He knows it is.
That, he didn't actually do anything wrong.
No.
What?
In accordance with the rules. And I think that...
Whoa! Christian's a fucking liar, y'all. He's a liar. He just said Massey did nothing wrong. So I guess the new president, the FIA committee, the fact that they removed Massey, implemented VAR, implemented directors by committee, says that Massey did everything right. Hell no. Come on, Christian. You could have did better than that, bro. You could at least stood up there and you could have did way better than that. That right there, like, yo, he's not going to put his henchmen out there in the street. That's what Massey was. Massey became Red Bull's henchman. He ain't going to do that. He's not going to put him out there like that. We all know Massey fucked up. Jonathan Wheatley and Christian Horner were part of that fuck up because that's what they planned to do.
But, it's a bit of a smokescreen because when you look back at that race, Mercedes had two opportunities to pit. There was a virtual safety car and then there was a safety car, and the driver was asking to pit on both times and they left him out. And that's what exposed him at the end of the race.
Shit. Oh, shit. Okay, so could Mercedes have pitted? Yes. Did it really make a lot of sense to pit under the normal circumstances, even as they sit with the safety car? No. Why? Because Max was busy getting his ass gapped, right? No pun intended, Grand Canyon style. Then there were 5 cars between Hamilton and Max. So really, there was no reason for Mercedes to pit. There was no reason logistically, realistically, and even with Christian and Max yelling on the phone talking about we need a miracle, they're too fast. Nowhere, no how, no way, under the untainted circumstances, does Max work his way through 5 cars that Lewis Hamilton lapped, 7 complete cars, minus Latifi and them. Does Max make it through that amount of traffic with Lewis on pace and catch him to pass him and win the championship? That shit doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. So this whole thing about them tactically getting it right is not full truths, okay? Good job. You pitted. You went on fresh, soft tires. Great. Even with those fresh, soft tires, without the massive manipulation, does Max still win that race? The answer is no. He does not.
No, that's tactically we got it right on the day, and
Small margins.
it's those small margins.
Yeah.
Do you think that what they're going to bring in now is a rotation of race directors? They're going to alternate the role. Do you think that's going to help or hinder the sport?
That's not.
Yeah, I'm gonna call it right now. I think I found the single biggest productivity hack of 2021. It's this Google Chrome extension called Speechify, and it literally does my reading for me.
So let's say you have to.
It's not something personally I would do, because it'd be like rotating the race engineer or the team manager in our team. You know, you sign up, you do all the races, and you want that consistency.
So is Christian worried about having consistency or having a relationship with somebody who will consistently be in charge? Which one is it? Because if you have a constant change of race directors, there's a less likely chance that you have the opportunity to influence one consistently through the season. So yeah, that really doesn't benefit you with your motive. No, it doesn't, Christian. You're right.
But if they're not actual trackside, you'd hope that they'd be supporting remotely so that you've got that consistency. The one thing that the drivers want is a consistent application of the rules rather than it changing.
So one thing that the drivers want is a consistent application, and let's be real, an honest application of the rules. Well, that didn't happen with Massey. So right there, your whole claim of he got it right, he didn't do anything wrong, goes out of the window, because it's obvious, according to the regulations and according to what was done, that it wasn't consistent with the regulations.
Or the penalties changing from race to race. And I think that's the challenge the FIA have got to obviously address this season.
How do you think will Ferrari be good next year?
Yeah, I think they're the dark horse.
Yeah.
You know, they were not in the championship fight last year.
No.
Big regulation change this year. They probably started earlier than any team. And, you know, they've been a
You want to know who I think the dark horse is? I think it's Alpine.
sleeping giant for a few years now, and you just get the impression they might just be waking up. So yeah, I never write off Ferrari.
We
that's
we
true.
wondered,
Can't do that.
actually. We questioned whether or not Lewis Hamilton would come back. He obviously went quiet for quite a long time. He is now coming back. Do you think F1 is a better sport with him in it?
I think he was always coming back personally, but yeah, he's such a big personality. He's such a big name in the sport. Of course, having Lewis in the sport is a positive thing, and I think that's what made last year so valuable. To be the first driver to beat Lewis in the hybrid era since 2014 was such a massive achievement for Max and for the team.
Oh my gosh, that was a backhanded compliment. Yeah, he's so big for the sport. It's like, yeah, he was such a good plump sacrificial lamb, you know, for us to murder and, you know, cut up and just ruin his. Basically, that's what that was. Like, he goes to say, yeah, he's such a big name, only to prop him up because Max beat him. So it's like, yeah, he's good for the sport if we can beat him. Like, come on, man. Like, you could tell Christian knows, even he knows that the shit they got it, but he knows it's a bunch of fluff.
With the dominance that they've had, you know, the last few years.
He's
Do you
got to have
think
another
in
backhanded
terms of what the
comment.
FIA have done in hindsight now, do they?
Oh, and thank you all, subscribers, people that are in the comments. Thank you for asking for some of these videos, asking me to do some of these, because I do have my own workflow. But every now and then when somebody suggests something and I look into it and I'm like, okay, that's worth it, I appreciate that.
owe him any kind of apology? And if it were your racer, would you feel like your racer was owed any kind of apology with subsequent things that have happened?
Ooh, that's a good
Massey going,
question.
for example.
Well, you could argue that about 100 different decisions that were made during the course of the year. You know, was a penalty at Silverstone big enough?
Oh my gosh, bro. Are you going to answer any of these legitimate questions that they are asking him in regards to if something was right or wrong? Christian is avoiding it. She asked him, do you think that Lewis is owed an apology for something done wrong? If it was your driver, would you? Well, of course you would, Christian, because when the wreck at Silverstone happened, you went on a fucking crusade to try to get one of the best driver in Formula One history removed for the entire season. So how competitive are you? Because that was a racing incident, and you tried to get a driver removed for the entire season. So the answer to that question should have been yes, if he's real about his shit. But the integrity of Red Bull is very questionable, and it shows in Christian's fucking actions.
The penalties that we got in Jeddah, were they fair? You know, there's so many things. I think it's time to turn the page.
Yeah, I bet you want to
There's a
turn
new
this
president
page
in the
because you
FIA.
know this
He's
fucking
looking
story
to
looks
put
bad
a new
for you.
structure in place and embrace more technology to help support those officials.
How dominant do you think Max could be? Because we know it took Lewis
6
Hamilton.
years, wasn't it?
No, 6
Second one.
years, yeah.
Yeah.
So how dominant, and having known Max and seeing what he can achieve, do you think he could have that same dominance?
Well, I think he's right up there. What you got to remember is the car is a big factor in what we do. And, Lewis, before he went to Mercedes, won one world championship.
Yo, who does that sound like? Who does that sound like? We just had an episode on that. Does that not sound like, Gasly? Massey regurgitated what was told to him by Christian and Jonathan Wheatley. We going motor racing. To Toto. Now we hear the similarity of comments from Gasly, who was Red Bull still, and although on the lower team in AlphaTauri, who's probably wanting to get another Red Bull seat. Now we hear Christian saying the same thing on this interview with the bullshit, right? It's just funny.
Since he's been at Mercedes, he's won another 6 in this hybrid era of the V6 turbo hybrid engines. And I think if we can give Max a car, I think currently he is the best driver in the world. And I think that
currently Max is not the best driver in the world. Max is the 2021 world champion. Max is not the best driver in the world. If Max is the best driver in the world, Max is not getting gapped by 14 fucking seconds in a world title race. Oh, I'm just saying. Max is not the best driver in the world. Not at all. By a long shot.
at such a young age, he's got so much ahead of him, and I think it's really down to us to make sure we're giving him the tools to be able to, realise his potential.
Talk Sport Breakfast.
My gosh. Oh, my goodness. That, ladies and gentlemen, was what I call some pure... Nah, it wasn't pure bullshit. Let me not overreact right there. It was definitely some bullshit mixed in there. Christian's body language tells you, just like Max's body language, and the way they respond to these questions will tell you. They know that their win is not wholehearted. They know this. You can tell. When somebody knows they win something under normal conditions and like they got it, the energy is totally different. Their energy is like, well, yeah, I'm just ready for next year. Yeah, you're ready for next season because you're hoping you actually have an opportunity to really prove and legitimate your previous championship. That's why you're so ready to get to next season. That's a fact. That's why they're so ready to get to next season, because they're ready to try to prove and legitimate their championship. And I do not think it's going to happen. I don't. I think, honestly, they have some changes that have gone on within the Red Bull team, with their power plants, with Honda dropping off, with them coming into their own and bringing everything in-house, which is definitely a benefit to a team, but I think there's going to be some growing pains. Now you also have the new 2022 car. Now you also have new regulations. Now you also have a new committee for the race director, or race director by committee. I think that if you pay attention to anything in sports history, if you have that magnitude of many changes going on, usually you don't perform as well as you did the previous year when you had continuity with everything. That's just typically what happens. So with all of that, I do not think Red Bull will repeat. I don't. I just don't. I think it's more likely that we see a totally new champion, or we see Lewis win his 8th title in 2022. So with that being said, I think this interview, nothing was special about it. I think the host asked very good questions, and I think Christian avoided answering them directly. So with that being said, we got Alpine coming up soon. Hopefully they don't change their launch date. We also we don't have Alpine. We have Alfa Romeo coming up. Alpine changed their date, and it was supposed to be the 22nd. It launched on the 21st. So now we have Alfa Romeo coming up. Hopefully soon. Hopefully they don't change anything. I know they still been driving and testing the car. It looks all crazy right now because they don't have their livery on it. So just stay tuned. Stay with me. We're going to have other episodes talking about other things as we lead into this year. Don't forget, as the Drive to Survive series come out, we will also have conversation on that. I appreciate you sticking with me. Subscribe, like, comment, have good dialogue, but be respectful when you come. And for all you haters out there, I appreciate you very much.